Hi folks, Dave, the Honest Audiophile, and welcome to the review desk. This is a tour of where I sit every single day. I want to thank Scott, a viewer, subscriber, and friend of the channel, for giving the suggestion for this video. Scott sent over an email and asked me, if I had ever considered doing a video of a tour of my listening room. And I've done some gear tours, so to speak, way back in the past. Haven't done one in a long time. So I thought it might be time to do one. He also asked, in fact, let me just read the email for you. It says, "Hi Dave, thanks for your YouTube channel." You're very welcome, Scott. Thank you for watching. Thank you for the suggestion. I was wondering if you've ever considered a video where you gave a tour of your listening room. In my opinion, this would be really interesting and even helpful for those of us thinking about something similar. Perhaps you've done this before, but it would also be interesting for you to give a bit of your journey into audiophilia and how you began. Suggestions for beginners might be helpful as well. One more thing, do you listen to music anywhere else in your house or just your listening room? If other places, what kind of equipment or systems do you use? All right, so a couple quick things. Number one, not using a microphone today, so it is the Google Pixel 8 Pro microphone. It may sound a little weird. Just bear with it. I can't hook up the other microphone and walk around the room like we're going to be doing. Number two, I am terrible at camera work and editing and that type of stuff, so this could be a little bit cringy of a video. Just kind of work with me here and understand, please. Number three, this is a very intimate look into my life, what my room looks like and my setup. And not all of us are blessed with fantastic setups with fancy lighting and big huge open spaces and super clean and stuff like that. I'm a very simple, basic person, and this is a working room. I use the room for my personal daytime job, also use it to do the majority of reviews in, and to do other stuff like gaming and things like that. And it's just not a room that is anything spectacular. It's just another room in the house. And so all I ask is, if you want to praise the room, do it as you see fit. If you want to roast the room, do it as you see fit. And this is me. This is an intimate look into my life, and it is what it is. You get what you want, what you asked for. This is an intimate look into the life and behind the scenes of the Honest Audiophile. All right, so to answer a couple questions for Scott. Number one, yes, the majority of listening happens in this room. Happens at this desk. Probably about 95% of listening happens here. The other little bit of listening happens out in the living room or the bedroom, and most of that listening is done using a DAP or my phone, which is a Google Pixel 8 Pro with a dongle and IEMs. Every now and then I'll use true wireless if I'm testing them. I do not use them for personal use. I'm old school. I like wired stuff. Let's come back to the video at the end after we show all the gear, and we'll talk about some of the other things that he asked about, like some tips for beginners and things like that. So I'm going to step behind the camera here and kind of walk through some of the gear real quick. All right, so here's a closer view of some gear on the desk. The speakers are Martin Logan Motion 15s. They have been on my desk now for about a year. I did purchase them used. These speakers have been around for a long time, and I really like them. I think that they have the best soundstage for this setup, and also the most accurate tone and timbre for the speakers that I personally own. Up top, we have a Allo S4X. And then over on the other speaker here, we have an Allo S5X. Down below here, behind everything, we have a Sennheiser 8XX from Drop. We have a Sennheiser 660 S2. We have a Sennheiser HD600, and then stashed in behind the speaker there, that's a Sennheiser 580 Black Silk. And then here on top of the desk, we have a Mytek Liberty DAC 2 and the Liberty HPA. That is my reference DAC and amp setup. I use those daily, and everything gets reviewed on it. Next to it, we have a IFI iDSD Neo 2 in for review. Stashed on top there is the Sennheiser HD 280 Pro. Underneath, we have the SMSL AO300, which is a integrated speaker amp, and that is currently hooked up to the Martin Logans. And then we have a Stax SRM 400S Energizer. On the other side of the Mytek, we have an Aune X1S GT and an Audiophile Deckard. And then we have the Tor Audio Roger tube amplifier with Mr. Eric Molds sitting on top. A couple headphones here that we need to get out of the way. We have a Austrian Audio HiX 60, which is the reference monitor that I use. And then we have a Audiophile LCD2 closed, and I use those quite often as a reference for a closed back headphone. Set all those up top here. Down on the desk, we have two DAPs. We have the Hibby R5 Gen 2, and then we have the Sony A105. We have a couple items that are in for review and some remote controls. And then down below here, we have a SMSL DO300 DAC. We have a Drop THX 1 linear amplifier. And then we have the JDS Labs Atom Plus DAC and amp stack. And then we have a bag that just has a bunch of various connectors. And then we have some IEM cases. We have the Anthem 5 E6 Customs. And we have, probably should have opened these first. We have the CTM CE110. We have the C Audio Bravery. And then we have the Softears Studio 4 and the CTM DaVinci 10. Over here on this wall, we have the Mr. Speakers Ether C, which is one of my reference headphones for closeback, planar. And then we have the Hi-Fi-Man Aria Stealth, which is another reference headphone that I use. The Hi-Fi-Man Sundara, which I use quite often as a reference for about a $300 planar. And the Hi-Fi-Man Ananda. And then we have the Thea Audio Wraith, the Harmonic Dyne Athena, and the Sivga Luon. Then we have a shelf that just has a bunch of random stuff. So obviously, but anyway, so I use these lock and locks for a lot of things to store IEMs that do not come with a case, or that the case is just unusable, so to speak. Either too big or just not practical. And then I also have all the dongles that I use and various adapters and things like that. Oh my, let's take a look at this real quick. So we have the AKG 612 Pro, the very interesting headphone, a good starter headphone for open back if you're looking for something that has very large soundstage and pretty good tone and timbre for a cheap price. And then one of my just fun headphones. This is the Meze 99 Classic, and this is one of those ones that you just put on to rock out. And then we have the Harmonic Dyne G200, and a very basic headphone that's a good starter headphone. This is a Superlux HD 681 Evo. Knock everything over here. We have the Thea Audio Ghost, which is a budget-friendly open back. The hardest headphone for me to drive. This is the Barodynamic DT880 600 ohm. Did get it modified so it can run dual entry and balanced. And then another very solid monitor headphone. This is the AKG K275. All right, if you ever wondered how I store IEMs, I take one of these little craft containers and I put cases inside them. So these are all basically IEMs that I use on a regular basis. We have the Zen's Top, Shure S12, JQ4U Pro, Kiwi Ears Orchestra Lite, the Dunu Titan S, Moondrop Blessing 2, Moondrop Kato, Tin Hi-Fi P1 Plus, 7 Hz Timeless, Thea Audio Oracle Mark II, and then Kiwi Ears Quintet, excuse me. So that's how I store IEMs. Now, of course, I use several others, but that's kind of the quick grab for the ones that I use on a regular basis. And real quick on IEMs, the CTM DaVinci 10 and Softear Studio 4 are my benchmark IEMs that I use to compare every single headphone to. All right, next up we have the Odyssey LCD5. That's my reference headphone and my personal favorite. Use that every single day as much as possible. And then we have the Odyssey CRBN or Carbon. And that's, of course, goes along with the Stax. All right, so we're back in front of the camera. And that's just a quick tour. There's several other headphones and IEMs that I didn't show, but for the most part, those are the ones that get most use. In fact, there's two things right here that I forgot to mention. First one, Rode NTH 100s. They get used all the time. And then, very carefully, we have the Audio-Technica R70X, and those get used quite frequently as well. Both of those would be considered a reference headphone as well. So Scott asked several questions. He was like, a little bit of journey of your audiophilia, and then suggestions for beginners. So let's combine that into one and then conclude this video. So I started out in a very musical home. My mom can play piano and organ. She was very talented and heard piano being practiced every day along with organs. And so I just kind of grew up with that. My sisters also were very talented musically. They both can play piano. One sister can also play guitar. They all can sing. My dad can sing. Somehow music abilities and playing instruments just kind of wasn't my thing. And yeah, I could probably do it if I really tried, but I just have no interest in learning music and how to play and stuff like that. I have tried to learn several instruments, but it just isn't for me. But ever since I was a youngster, I've always listened to music, and I always was drawn to country music, acoustical music, jazz music, and classic rock. And so those all kind of just always were kind of my go-tos. And I listened to a lot of movie soundtracks with like full orchestras playing. Love Jerry Goldsmith and James Newton Howard and things like that. And so I just kind of was drawn to that along with my jazz music interests. Acoustical music was kind of my draw. As I got a little bit older into my early teens, I started working as a sound technician with the local church that we were attending. And I learned how to, how things should sound live and how that they were reproduced and how you mixed it together and edited it together on tape and how it just should sound live without sounding artificial. It should sound like the speaker is not using any amplification. And so I just kind of learned how to mix all that together. And then at every church that I've attended, I've kind of always ventured to the sound booth and kind of gotten involved in that. And at my current church, I'm heavily involved in doing that. But in the meantime, I didn't really have a whole lot of headphones or IEMs or anything like that I was using. I was just using cheap stuff that I could just buy, for a couple of dollars, because I didn't have a whole lot of money. But I knew in the back of my mind, this isn't how it should sound. This doesn't sound accurate. This doesn't sound really reproduced properly. And so I started to really pay attention to recordings, how well it was recorded, how well it was mixed, mastered. And I started to learn terms and definitions and how they apply to sound reproduction. And I built this knowledge of what sound should sound like and how it should be reproduced. And having sat there with sound board technology and speakers and microphones and all that kind of stuff around me, I was able to kind of get this benchmark, so to speak, or baseline of what I expected gear to sound like when it reproduced. Well, 7 or 8 years ago, I started to invest more into headphones and DACs and amps. The first one that really comes to mind is, I can't remember, it was like the Topping A90 and D90, or no, A80. Maybe it was 80. Anyways, it was a Topping. It was through Drop, did a drop for this Topping. They don't make it anymore, but I purchased it. It was like $300 for the whole setup, and I was like, really, I was like, man, this thing's expensive. And when it came in, I had a couple headphones. I had a Barodynamic Custom Studio, and I also had a Monoprice M1060. And then I purchased some other gear, some IEMs, and I started listening, and I started to realize that the way it was reproducing was accurate, or closer to accurate than what I had been getting through this cheaper stuff. And it just drove me to learn more. And that's when I started my YouTube channel about 5 years ago. I was like, I want people to have my journey, to experience my journey of me learning and growing and going through the steps of starting out small and getting bigger and understanding, learning things, changing opinions, honing in opinions and beliefs. But the one thing that always stood true for me is my belief of what the actual music and the quality of the stage and the placements and the imaging should be like. And that's because I had that benchmark and that baseline of where to begin. And if I was to give any advice to a beginner, that is, know what you expect and understand why you expect it. Understand why you believe what you believe, so that when you hear other things and other opinions, you can make your own decision as to whether you need to correct or stay strong. And don't be moved, and don't fluctuate with, I like that, what he says, I like what he says, I like what they say, I like what they say. Know what you believe and stand firm. And that way you can stand up for it, and you can be strong in your opinion. Don't be forceful, and don't be rude and crude to people, but know what you believe and why you believe it. And it will help you to be able to find gear that works for you. If you don't have that solid baseline and that line of, this is what it needs to sound like and why, you're going to just search for things, and you're never really going to be able to settle on anything. You're going to spend a lot of money, and you're going to hear a lot of gear, but you're not really going to be able to find that one thing that you go, this is it. I'm comfortable, I'm content, and I know that this is how it's supposed to sound. And that's what I have back here. I haven't changed gear in a long time as far as my benchmark stuff. Stuff stays on my desk for several years until something else comes along that's either an improvement or it's just a revise, and the other stuff is showing its age. Don't be flip-flopping and changing gear constantly if you truly want to understand what gear sounds like. Be consistent and have that benchmark and that baseline understanding of, these are the terms, these are definitions, and this is how it applies, and this is how it should sound and why. And you'll go far in the audiophilia journey. Know what you expect and why. That's the best knowledge I can give. The other thing is, you don't have to spend a ton of money to get good sound. Good sound can come from any price point. Bad sound can come from any price point. And trust your ears. Trust your ears. They're the final judge. It doesn't matter about the graphs and the measurements and the specs and what he says or she says or they say or whoever says. It's about what you hear and what you know. Because if you have that benchmark and that baseline set and you understand how it sounds here and why, then you'll be happy and you'll find the gear that you can trust. So hopefully this all makes sense. Bunch of rambling, didn't plan any of this as far as what I was going to say. No scripts, no notes, nothing. And hopefully the cringe editing wasn't too terrible. I guess I'll find out once I turn the camera off. But anyways, it's been Dave, the Honest Audiophile. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. Speaking of next video, somewhere on screen, subscription links, notification bells. If you haven't already, please check those off. Don't forget to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to the video, and check out all the links down below. There's all kinds of information on there regarding how you contact channel, follow channel, support channel. All that kind of stuff is listed down below. I want to thank my supporters through Patreon and YouTube memberships. Thank you very much for all that you provide to the channel. It's much appreciated. It does go back into the channel, and some of the gear that you see here is because of your support. So thank you very much for all that you supply. If you are and give to the channel. If you are interested in supporting the channel, there are various ways that you can do that through one-time gifts with PayPal, Venmo, or Buy Me a Coffee, or you can do monthly subscriptions through Buy Me a Coffee, Patreon, and YouTube memberships. Along with the monthly subscriptions, you can get access to my private Discord servers and other benefits. So check out all those links down below. There's all kinds of information like gear recommendations, music recommendations, and all that kind of stuff. So check out the links below. Don't forget to enjoy the music, and that honesty is the best policy.